I got your argument that you were supposed to be a full professor in order to write a book like this and to develop a thesis like this.
Yeah.
But because we have more or less the same,
it's not a joke, by the way.
No, I understood it in a serious way. Yes, and from your thesis, I can imagine what were the reasons for this. But because more or less we have the same structure here in Bulgaria, like department in Bulgarian history, department on Balkan history, and department on European modern history.
I feel at home.
So, and it was not expressed in a very clear way, but if I got your point well, it is somehow logical that a person from the department which is not the department on Jewish history, with his knowledge on European history, wrote a book about the Jewish history like this. I mean, like the invention of the Jewish people and this kind of argument. Is it your part of your point that it was supposed person from other department to write a book about the Jewish history, which is something totally different from the canon of your country? I don't mean you, but a person from other department.
First of all, I didn't know that here also you have this division of work. Yeah, you call it division of work. Now, you came to the Sorbonne. You are not looking at the department of French history. Doesn't exist. You have a department of history. You are coming to Oxford. You have not a British historical department. If you want to specialize later, you can take a direction. But there is one department of history. I didn't know that Bulgaria is so similar to us. Now, the problem is that in the department of Jewish history, the conceptual apparatus make them that they have not a possibility to look on the Zionists in the Jewish history outside the box. Because all the concept, to give you an example, for them, this is the reason that I wrote the land of Israel, it's a natural concept. By the way, most of the people don't know that in the Bible, the concept of land of Israel is not the land of Israel of today. There is not in the Bible the concept of land of Israel. It's only the land of the Israeli kingdom in the north. Jerusalem in the Bible is not in the land of Israel. But nobody in the department of Jewish history can consider thinking outside the Zionist box. You understand? Now, this division that was built, you know, not as a conspiration, but it was very deeply ideological concept. The history of the Jewish cannot be compared to the history of other people in the world. And I believe that Bulgarian history also cannot be compared.
Yes, especially Jewish history.
You understand? Deeply. Now, the problem is that...
Oh, Kodesh is nice.
No, I finish one more. But who produced the textbook for the schools about Bulgarian history? Who produced it? It's the professors from the Bulgarian history department. It's not others, no? The textbook in the schools that...
more complicated, but
as
a general rule.
Okay, sorry. I'm coming back to Israel. The textbook that were written to Israeli pupils in the schools are written by the historians from the Jewish department. It's natural. You understand? Now, in this way, it's reproduced all the time the basic notion of the identity, of national identity. Because without it, all the consciousness about Israeli, Jewish identity will change completely. You understand?
Yes.
Now, I wrote it after I got the full professorship, because writing these two books, any chance to become full professor. No, it's not a joke, because I'm not a persona non grata, but I'm persona non grata in the Jewish.
But because you said that you had problems with professors, with your colleagues at the university, and my second question was, were there any official declarations from the state officials in Israel against your book?
No, but 2 months ago, a professor from the Jewish Historical Department wrote an article attacking me, and he said that he heard that the Foreign Office Minister of Israel prepared a very, very large file on me. He asked the file, but he wasn't given the file, but he knows that there is a very large file. But you have to understand that for the moment, they cannot touch me openly, because, and by the way, to change a little bit the image, I was invited to 11 programs in the TV about this first book. The university, it was difficult. By the way, difficult not only because of ideological reasons. As you know, if you are a member of a university, that jealousy is not less important, even more important. There are not a lot of historians that are translated to 20 languages. I believe that the jealousy, professional jealousy, was playing not less than ideological problem. You know what is university. I too, if I was in their place, I too, if I was in their place, I would suffer with it. I admit it. You understand it?
Yes.
So,
my question is the second. What do you know about the collaboration between Zionists and Nazis during the Second World War? I mean, especially the activities of Yitzhak Shamir.
Now, I want to explain about this subject. It's a marginal subject because Yitzhak Shamir belonged to a group. By the way, I'm writing about the group in the new book. A very marginal that had connection with some persons in the Nazis regime. You have to take it in proportion. They were anti-British, they fight against the British. Nehru has also a relationship with the Nazis. In the Egyptian president, Sadat. Sadat also has a connection with Nazis. You have to take it in this frame. Sorry?
Not Sadat, but Nasser.
No, Sadat. Sadat.
The great mufti of Yerushalayim, Amir al-Husseini.
He is also. But we have to understand that all of them that has relationship with the Nazi regime was from anti-imperialist, British anti-imperialist motivation. You can say that it wasn't legitimate, and I will agree with you. How come that a Jewish group, a Zionist Jewish group in Palestine, tried to find some contact? Don't forget that till 41, people know that Nazi Germany is anti-Semitic, but the people didn't imagine the Holocaust. You understand the difference on sensibility? I don't try to justify Yitzhak Shamir. I say, from point of view of political sensibilities, it was a minute before the death camp. You understand? It was anti-Semitism. They knew that Nazis are anti-Semitic. By the way, if the Nazism was not, wouldn't be anti-Semitic, I believe that a lot of German Jews were in the Nazi regime. Like in fascist till in Italy till 1938, it was Italian Jewish leaders in the fascism, as you know, very important one, Olivetti and others. But make attention, Zionism is not Nazism. I am not a Zionist. I never was a Zionist. I consider myself as a non-Zionist, a post-Zionist, not exactly anti-Zionist, because people, when I say that I am anti-Zionist, they think that I am against the existence of the Israeli state. I am not against the existence of the Israeli state. I think that the Israeli state has to have borders. And I know that the state was created by colonization. You understand? It's clear. I will not hide the Zionist colonization on the account of the Arab population in place, because I justify today the existence of the Israeli society. The reason that I wrote the second book, and it's very important, is because Israel has not borders. After the Zionist myth, the land of Israel is still Rabat Ammon and Damascus. It's not a joke. I try to explain it carefully in the book. The first Zionist, David Ben-Gurion included, stressed the fact 100 years ago that land of Israel is still Damascus, till Rabat Ammon. Then, saying today that the state of Israel has to be till the Jordan is very modest. You understand? Now, I wrote the book in the end with a very pessimistic declaration. Because I think that I understand the deep consciousness of homeland, I'm afraid that Israel cannot go back to the borders of 67 alone. I don't believe that from inside the Israeli society it will build a movement, a party that will answer positively of the declaration of the Arab League in 2002, 10 years ago. The Arab world, in the first time in its history, accept the existence of Israel. March 2002. In the borders of 67. The first time in the history. A kind of Balfour declaration, Arab Balfour declaration. Israel didn't respond. Because Israel cannot go back to the frontier, to the borders of 67. I was thinking a few years ago that Obama will help Israel to free itself from the occupied territories, because it's 44 years that Israel is dominating a population without any political, civic, social rights. 44 years without any perspective to have their homeland, their state, their country. I was thinking that Obama will be the second Jimmy Carter. And I discovered that Obama is only the second Clinton. Then I lost hope for the moment. And I don't see how come that the longest conflict, national conflict in the history of the 20th century will be resolved in the years that come without changing in American policy. I'm not against the existence of the Israeli state, even if I know that it's a pure colonial production. But it's become a historical fact. And what is worse, in my point of view as a historian, that Zionism create the new people. By the way, two peoples. I think that Zionism create the Israeli people and the Palestinian. Basically, Zionism doesn't want to recognize neither one, neither other. They start a little bit with the Palestinians, but Zionism doesn't want to recognize its own production, the Israeli society, the Israeli culture, the Israeli cinema, the Israeli theater, the Israeli literature. There is not a Jewish cinema. There is not a Jewish literature today. There is an Israeli literature, but Zionism doesn't want to recognize, because for Zionism, the only people that existed relevant to the Israeli state is the Jewish people. I mean, Woody Allen, Madoff are the owners of my country. If there is other questions, I will be happy to answer.
Other questions?
Okay, speaking generally, let's imagine for a minute a society without, society free from its national myth. So, what kind of society you see this society? I mean, what's beyond the construction of nations?
It started some way. If you are looking what happened with the British culture today, and the French culture, and the German culture, you see that they started to free themselves from the ancient myth. Nobody in France today will say that the French citizens are descendants of the Gauls. Nobody will say that Jeanne d'Arc was the national leader, only the voters of Le Pen, Marine Le Pen. But
Which are not so few.
they are not so few, but they are minority. And by the way, the last numbers are very good. I mean, she's less. Anyway, I repeat, if you look at the myth, the myth builders of the builders myth of France, of Britain, of Germany today, of Italy also. You know, every Italian 50 years ago was sure that he is the son of Julius Caesar. See, it's finished. The process, the political process of Europe, with all the difficulties, helped a lot to destroy national myth. It will arrive to Bulgaria if all the Balkans will change the relationship between them. You understand? It depends also with economic process, a lot of things. It's not easy, it's not for tomorrow to Bulgaria, but I think that to destroy national myth in this level of history, it's very important, especially, and this is very important, ethnocentric national myth. I mean national myths that are based about fictive ethnic. You understand me? Because even yesterday, you can say that in France, the basic of their nationalism was civic one. Even Le Pen, Marine, not the father, Marine Le Pen will not say about an Arab that he is not a French today. She's playing with it, but she will never say that France belongs to the Gallo-Catholic. She will not say it like in my country, people are saying that Israel belongs to Jews, when 25% are not considered as Jews. Marine Le Pen will never say it. If Marine Le Pen could pronounce ideas of Zionist ideas that are pronounced day and night in Israel, she will be in prison in France. In Britain also.
Well, but speaking about Britain, there is a Scottish nationalism and Welsh nationalism,
Now,
which is younger, let's say.
I'm not worried about it. I will tell you why.
No, I'm not worried.
No, because the Scottish, I was in Edinburgh a few months ago. I discussed a lot in Glasgow and Edinburgh about the Scottish nationalism. You know, now they have their myth fantastic. They didn't need Mel Gibson to build their myth, but Mel Gibson held a lot. You know, now, it's very interesting. You say about the Scottish, maybe they will become independent, but they are not proposing, the Scottish nationalism is not proposing to go out from Europe. You have to understand, they want the picture of the Queen will disappear from their mind. They have a good reason for it. But it will not be a border between Scotland and England, even if Scotland will become a state. You understand it? Between Northern Ireland and Ireland, and the Republic of Irish Republic, there is not a border today. You understand? With the paraply of Europe, everybody can renew his nationalism, like the Catalans. Also, they don't propose to go out from Europe. You understand? They want other relationship. Now, the Scottish has good reasons to become, 200 years, they are British. Why? Because British was the empire that the sun never disappeared. It was good to be British 100 years ago. It's not a big deal to be British today if you have the oil of the North. You understand? And to get rid from the picture of the Queen, it's a good reason to become Scottish. I'm not against, but I know that it will not be a border. You know what is for a nation a border. What it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago a border. it started to disappear relatively. Europe built new borders, new identities. The Jew disappeared in Europe as the enemy, as the otherness. There is other enemies, other otherness. I will not get into this subject because you will get insensibility.
Well, another question? If, yes?
A short question. You said Israel belongs only to Jewish people. Is that constitutionally biased?
Yeah, there is laws. We don't have a constitution like France. We are Anglo-Saxon.
But that is in the laws.
There is in the laws
that
that Israel belongs to the Jewish people, and Benjamin Netanyahu repeats it every week.
And it's
There is
very,
a constitutional laws
very
saying that it belongs to the Jewish people. There is not, you understand, not a state, normal democratic state that belongs to the Israeli citizens without difference of origin, religion, sex, etc., etc., etc.
And there are very good reference on this issue of the book.
The last chapter, I try to explain why we are not a democracy, why we are an ethnocracy that has not a future. I see, and I'm afraid.
Chris?
Yeah. Pastor Zand, I have a good friend of mine, very smart guy from Washington, D.C., by the name of Horowitz, by the way. Very smart guy, very close friend of mine.
Not the musician.
And he's not a relative of Vladimir Horowitz, but anyway, he is using to say, do you know who are pessimists and who are optimists? A lot of interpretations, but his is the following. The optimists, they went to Auschwitz, the pessimists to California. So, is that, what do you think? Maybe it could happen again?
No, I don't think it will happen again, but I think that he was right.
Yes, he was.
The pessimist went to California, he was right. The half pessimist went to Palestine, and I'm not sure that he was right. The optimist, if it was a communist, Marxist, Bundist, socialist, they were wrong. The Zionists understood, because they were so ethnocentric, they felt the ethnocentrism of the Eastern, Center and Eastern nationalism. You understand me?
Yeah.
And I think that Herzl was right in the diagnosis, not in the therapy. The guy that went to California was much more. By the way, Horowitz, I got hundreds and hundreds of letters of this book from everywhere. Sometimes people that I don't know the language, Russian, wrote me in Russian that I supposed to know Russian. But the nicest letter that I got was from an American, from Jewish origin, in the name of Horowitz. He wrote me, it was a year and a half ago. Thank you for your present for my 85th birthday. It's a really present in my life. Now, I am a psychologist. Your book helped me from point of view identity. Now I know that I become normal after reading your book. I have no problems. I'm Jews like my neighbors, Christian, all this. No problems, I'm not special. He wrote me. I'm a psychologist. If your book, if your book appeared 20, 35 years before, I could lose a lot of patience. You understand me? If the book appeared much earlier, I could lose a lot of patience of mine, Jewish patience. This is my Horowitz. Maybe I will publish the collection of letters because a lot of couples, mixed couples, wrote me because they felt liberated with my book. I try to normalize the Jewish history. Against anti-Semitism, against Zionism. And I don't know, I don't believe that books change the world. I don't believe it. But when the world starts to change, he is looking for other books. This is my little hope about this.
Well, excellent. Once again, thank our guest for this wonderful speech and interesting conversations which we had, and I think that it was very useful for us. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for our